So hello and welcome. My name is Bernadette Goldstein. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing with SES Global Services for our food safety and supply chain programs. And before we get started, just a few logistic notes. So we intend for the webinar to go 40-45 minutes, and we've saved 15 minutes for Q&A at the end of the presentation. So please type your questions into the chat box and we will get to them. If for some reason we run out of time, we'll have a recording of your questions. We'll have them written down so we can get back to you after the webinar. Everyone will be in listen mode only. And the webinar is being recorded, so we'll email it to you tomorrow. And then you can share that with any of your colleagues that potentially could not have made it today. Okay. So introductions. Well, here again, thank you all for joining. We're glad that you're sharing your time with us today. We've got an exciting presentation in conjunction with FSSC 22000. And Jacqueline Safi is the North American representative for FSSC 22000. She's based in Washington, D.C., and she works to build a broader understanding of how accredited FSC 22000 certification can contribute to global harmonization in food safety, forge international compliance, and meet the needs of the public and private sector. She is a native of the United Kingdom, and she graduated with a BSc in agricultural science and a PhD in animal science from the University of Nottingham. And she has a background in transatlantic business development. So she is a wealth of knowledge, and we're super excited to hear what she has to say today. Also joining us from the SES team is Tina Patel. She's our Technical Director of Food Safety, and Radoika Brichki, our Training Program Manager. So a little bit about SES Global Services. So SES is a third-party certification body located in California's Bay Area. We have satellite offices around the world, and global leader in environmental sustainability certification, auditing, testing, and training standards and development for over 35 years. Our SES programs span across industries and recognizes achievements in green building, product manufacturing, food and agriculture, forestry, and more. And here is a sample of some of the services that are offered by our Food and Agriculture Division. Our services include the major GSFI benchmark certifications, SQF, BRC, FSSC 22000, Global GAP Primus, and sustainability services include programs such as USDA Organic, Sustainably Grown, Non-GMO Project, Gluten-Free, Fair Trade USA, and more. And so I am going to hand this over to Jacqueline now for her to go through this comprehensive review of FSC 22000.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. So thank you very much, Bernadette, for the introduction. And as she said, I'm delighted to be here to talk a little bit about FSSC 22000. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm always delighted to work with our licensed certification bodies such as SES. It brings me able to reach out to both our certified clients and also those of you that are seeking to become FSSC certified. So we've got a lot of things to get through today. So if any areas that I don't go into any deep enough depth for you, then I am always available for further questions afterwards, or you can reach back to SES to get more information. So I'm going to introduce the FSSC 22000 program for those of you who are not familiar with it. And I'm also going to introduce the development program, the FSSC development program, which is really targeted at small and medium-sized enterprises that might not have the capability at this point to go on to full GFSI certification. We'll talk about the benefits both of the development program, but also the benefits of going to full FSSC GFSI benchmark certification. And then because we are constantly being updated and because we are a GFSI benchmark certification program, we're constantly meeting the requirements of the GFSI, and we've recently updated to version 5.1. So for those of you that are currently certified to version 5, I'm just going to review a little bit of the updates in 5.1 and also tell you where you can find out more information about 5.12. So for those of you that are not familiar yet with FSSC 22000, a little bit of background as to why it's such a long name. FSSC 22000 actually stands for Food Safety System Certification. It is a third-party certification program, and rather than a product certification, FSSC actually is a certification of your food safety management system. And so that's where the FSSC comes into. It's based on ISO 22000, which is an international globally recognized standard. It's supported by prerequisite programs, which are like the GMPs for the different sectors, and it's supported by the FSSC additional requirements. So the ISO documents are all written by consensus. They're globally recognized standards. We don't have any control over those. We have control over the additional requirements. And the reason that FSSC exists is to bring those globally recognized international standards benchmarkable to the GFSI. So we can update the program by adding to the additional requirements. We also have input from our board of stakeholders through our board of stakeholders decision list, which are updates from the industry, and so we keep it very current. The ISO documents tend to be revised every 5 years or so, although, as we'll see going on, ISO 22000 has been around for a number of years prior to its revision. Just trying to move on here. Okay, let me just see if I can take my slide forward. Okay, so I think if I don't touch anything else, it's going to work. So I apologize for that delay. So further to what I've just said, FSSC 22000 provides a framework for a robust and effective food safety management system. And this food safety management system comes from that ISO 22000 framework. It is a GFSI recognized scheme. Its power and its strength comes from being based on existing ISO standards that are written by consensus and are recognized all over the world. And it covers the whole of the food supply chain. Because of our additional requirements and our integrity program, it ensures reliable certification. And we have local representation all over the world, such as myself, to provide input from that global market. And because it's based on ISO 22000, which has recently been updated to the HLS, it facilitates integrated management systems. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. And it also includes a training program. So here it is in a nutshell. There's a lot of information on this infographic. And these slides, as Bernadette said, will be shared. But this is just a little bit more information that sort of explains more about us. In 2019, FSSC 22000 celebrated its 10-year anniversary. And although we've been in existence for 10 years, we're actually fairly new to the party. Some of the other GFSI benchmark programs have been around a lot longer. They predate, in some cases, the actual establishment of the GFSI, and they were developed by the retail associations to meet the requirements of the retailers to provide and sell safe food. At that time, a lot of the manufacturing facilities were actually developing their own processes of food safety management. And so when GFSI was established, the manufacturers were looking for a certification program that would meet their needs of that food safety management approach. And ISO 22000 was first established or first published in 2005. And so before 2005, there wasn't an ISO-based food safety management system. Once it was available, industry looked to FSSC 22000 to take that ISO 22000 management system and put it into a platform that could be benchmarked by the GFSI. And that's how FSSC came about. So in 10 years, We have grown. We've now got over 25,000 actually today certificates worldwide. And as a third-party certification program, we work through our licensed certification bodies such as SCS. We cover the whole of the globe. We have independent representatives like myself in China, in Japan, and India. So we provide that local representation and that local feedback, and are able to communicate from FSSC 22000 out into the market. We cover the whole of the supply chain. So because we have ISO-based prerequisite programs, FSSC can cover retail, catering, transport and storage, food manufacturing, the manufacturing of food packaging, animal feed production and farming. ISO 22000 actually will cover the whole of the supply chain, but FSSC has to define its prerequisite programs in order to keep in line with GFSI benchmarking. We work with our board of stakeholders, as I mentioned, and we kept up to date by them and by our advisory committee. And FSSC itself is a non-profit, so we are independent, and we work to make ISO 22000 as a management system available to industry. So for those of you that are non-familiar with the food safety management system approach, ISO 22000 actually defines the requirements for a food safety management system. It incorporates the HACCP principles and defines the need for the prerequisite programs. And the prerequisite programs are like the GMPs for the different sectors, and they define the conditions that are required in order to make safe food. But they also are incorporated within the food safety management system defined by ISO 22000. It's a flexible risk-based approach, and it's based on the PDCA process, the Plan, Do, Check, Act process. It does require management commitment and leadership, so it does encompass the whole of the company. It's not just based on the shop floor, and it defines the need for internal and external communication, focus on the supply chain and the customer, and demands employer training and engagement. And all around with this and the process for review, verification, and evaluation provides that Plan, Do, Check approach. Now, one of the images of FSSC 22000, which is more relevant to this webinar today, is that FSSC 22000 is only for the major manufacturers. And although our initiation was probably demanded by those major manufacturers that were familiar with the needs to do food safety management, it isn't totally applicable to the major manufacturers. FSSC 22000 is really applicable to organizations of all size. There's also a misunderstanding that it's too complicated to install, and really it's not. FSSC 22000 is very flexible because it has this food safety management system approach, and it can be used by companies of all sizes. It actually, because of these things that it defines, it provides almost a blueprint for the development of food safety management. So regardless of what size company you are, it provides these definitions of the food safety management system for you to install a food safety management, to install your own food safety management. Because of the prerequisite programs, it's applicable to all levels of the supply chain. It's not just applicable to ingredient manufacturers, for instance, and it covers all those sectors as I've defined that we have the prerequisite programs for. And it is not too complicated, but it does require some effort, and it does require some input and commitment to establish. And the reasons that, because there are some, because there is this need to develop this risk-based approach, FSSC has developed this own development program. And our FSSC development program is like a starter program to get you on the path to food safety management, and to provide you with that tool to develop or improve your own food safety system. And it can be applied to, again, companies of any size, but this particular program was really targeted at the small and medium enterprises just starting off on their journey to food safety management. The development program is aligned with FSSC 22000 and the ISO 22000 management system, and it pulls out the main elements required for food safety management system without the too complicated elements that are needed for FSSC certification. It's aligned with Codex HACCP, with the GFSI Global Management Program, and with GMPs, and it's developed around the essentials elements of food safety management. It's a simpler process. It provides a conformity assessment rather than a certification, and it allows you to get on that first path to food safety management. This is recognized by many of those major manufacturers that are familiar with FSSC 22000, or the retailers that are also used to working both with the Global Markets Program or with FSSC 22000. But because it's aligned with FSSC 22000, it provides a pathway to actually achieve full GFSI benchmark certification. And in order to help you on this pathway, we include a free training model and a free self-evaluation tool, which really helps to explain how food safety management works. So we have three elements. We have the self-evaluation tool, we have a training program, and we also have information on the conformity assessments. So the self-evaluation tool is available on the website, and this outlines all those requirements that are needed to start off in food safety management. If you need more training, or if you want some more information on how to achieve this approach, we do have training models which are also available on the website, and they all lead up to a conformity assessment. So rather than to a full certification audit, we have conformity assessment bodies that can come and to do a conformity assessment and provide a statement which you can share to your suppliers or share to your customers to show that you are starting off on your program of food safety management. So there's these three elements: the self-evaluation tool, the training module, and this leads to the conformity assessment. And ultimately, it can lead to a pathway to FSSC 22000. And the value of this to small and medium organizations is the information is all available online. It's very clear. It provides a self-evaluation for you to evaluate the processes that you're either doing, or to identify those processes that you should be doing or you should learn about in order to establish a food safety management system. So if you need support after conducting that first self-evaluation, there's some training models that are available, and that can bring you through to the level 1, where you can have your conformity assessment, achieve a conformity statement, and provide this to those vendors or customers that are familiar with the development program. Or you can continue with the level 2, or ultimately add to both those levels to achieve FSSC 22000. So it's like a process, a learning process to achieve FSSC 22000. So level 1 requires, or is comprised of the minimum requirements really of ISO 22000, the appropriate prerequisite program, and a small section of those additional requirements. So it's about 30% of the requirements within ISO 22000, and then you add to that some more elements, that most of them relying around documentation and the additional process elements that are part of ISO 22000 to achieve level 2, and then to add to those requirements, if you want to move forward to FSSC 22000, you need to meet all the requirements of ISO 22000, all the requirements of the relevant prerequisite program for the sector, and all the requirements of FSSC. So that's one way that you can achieve FSSC 22000, or another way of just staying on level 1 conformity as a small and medium company. So we've currently got the development program available for 3 of the scopes that FSSC covers, includes human food, manufacturer of human food, manufacturer of pet food under category D2, and the manufacture of biochemicals, which are in food ingredients. And we've recently added catering and retail and wholesale, which would be starter food safety management programs for those sectors. Those literally have just been published, so it's kind of news to everybody, and they're available for evaluation and certification for organizations in those sectors that want to start on food safety management. So the requirements, as we said, you have to meet the requirements of the food safety requirements, an element of the prerequisite programs and the additional requirements, and these are very clearly laid out. And these identify some of those elements which are useful to small and medium companies, whether you're staying in the development program or whether you're interested in going on to FSSC 22000. And it provides details of procedures and processes that will help you achieve the good food safety management. And one of the ones that I think is quite interesting within ISO 22000 is 1.3 here, which is the requirements around using externally developed elements. So if you are starting off on food safety management, you do need sort of the leadership and commitment. You do need to define your organizational roles within the company, because the whole of food safety management requires commitment and competence within the team. But it also allows you to use externally developed elements that perhaps if you're starting out in food safety management or you need help with conducting the risk assessment, you can use those developed by other people and recruit that into your own food safety management system. So that's another way to build up on this in this approach. And this is part of ISO 22000. This is just one element that contributes to the flexibility of ISO 22000 and the FSSC 22000 approach. So these are those requirements in level 1 of the development program. These obviously carry on through to FSSC 22000. And these need to be supported by the prerequisite program requirements. And as I said, these are like the GMPs for the particular sectors. The prerequisite programs are defined for the different sectors, and they lay out very clearly the requirements for maintaining a hygienic environment and ensuring food safety and support of the food safety management system. And then within the development program, there's just a sector of the additional requirements, which are obviously expanded quite considerably within FSSC 22000. For the development program, you achieve a conformity assessment, and one of the benefits that might be for small and medium organizations is that it's listed on the public register. It's actually listed on the FSSC website, like FSSC 22000 certified companies are listed on the FSSC website. The conforming bodies meeting the development program are on that sector of the website too. So a customer can find you, seeing that you're starting on that program of food safety management. We do have an element of governance. We only work through our licensed certification bodies that become conformity assessment bodies to work with the development program. And this differentiates us from the GFSI Global Markets Program, which doesn't have such high level governance. We take responsibility, we monitor the CABs, and we monitor the assessment reports. So this is unlike the FSSC 22000 certificate, which is valid for 3 years, the conformity statement is valid for 1 year. So you can either remain at that level, or you can up to level 2 the following year, or you can replace it by full FSSC 22000 certification. So there are a number of benefits. It does open up markets for small and medium companies. The tools for the self-assessment and the gap analysis are available free of charge on the website. So even if you're not interested in doing the development program, but are interested in going forward to FSSC 22000 certification, these are good tools really just to look at and to become familiar with that risk-based approach of ISO 22000. The requirements are available on both levels, and it's available in a number of different languages. And it's really targeted at the small and medium-sized companies that are less developed food safety systems, but are interested in starting up in that area. Startups, niche, novel food companies, artisan food companies, I'm sure there are many of you out there that are interested in this as a tool that can get you on that pathway and show supply assurance to the major manufacturers and the retail outlets. We do see emerging markets in Africa, Asia, LATAM and Eastern Europe. And many of these, because they're already familiar with ISO 22000, so they really value this opportunity or this pathway to get into ISO 22000, which is a regulatory system in many Asian countries. So it is well recognized. It's a good platform. It contributes to harmonization and provides everybody on the same platform. So just really a few little summary and benefits to the FSSC development program before we move on to fully fledged FSSC 22000 certification. So it's targeted at small and medium enterprises to help develop and establish the food safety system, provides a stepping stone model for full FSSC certification, and it's very flexible. It provides an opportunity to either remain on level 1 or 2 or to move up to FSSC 22000. The conformity assessments are conducted by approved assessment bodies, so it provides that governance and rigor and reliability of the conformity assessments. And we have training again by approved training organizations to maintain the standard, and so that it's a recognized level of achievement. It does provide a tool for vendor development and assurance, so it begins that pathway or journey to supplier assurance. And it opens up market access to conforming food organizations. Many large organizations, as I mentioned, do use FSSC 22000, but this opens up the opportunity for smaller organizations to benefit from the same platform. We offer the public register for conforming organizations so that customers can find you on the FSSC development program website. And it also offers a tool for certification bodies to train their auditors that are moving up into FSSC 22000. Because the duration of the assessments are shorter than the certification, the cost is lower, and it's possibly more economically viable for smaller organizations. So really that's a summary of the FSSC development program. So that's a stepping stone to FSSC FSSC certification and full food safety management system. So let's refer back to this framework that I've talked about. We've got the ISO 22000 management system framework, which applies across the supply chain. And this provides that plan, do, check approach to manage risk, defines the need for communication, management review, verification, and continuous improvement. It's also supported by the prerequisite programs. And these are very specific, sector-specific prerequisite programs for the different sectors, and these define what you need to do within that sector to control sanitation, hygiene, environment, suppliers, contractors, etc. And these are all defined. These are different depending on the sector, and these are also defined within FSSC 22000. And then the FSSC 22000 additional scheme requirements, which are specific requirements that cover certification. They add additional elements that might be required by GFSI or changing requirements within industry. In FSSC currently, they add requirements for food fraud, for food defense, for environmental monitoring, and also the integrity program, which provides consistency and reliability, confidence in the certification. And this brings ISO 22000 into the GFSI benchmarking platform. So this means that ISO 22000 is GFSI benchmarked, and FSSC provides you with that GFSI recognized certification. So as I said, the benefits of ISO 22000 to small and medium companies, it is an international standard. So ISO is an international standard. So it provides a common global language for food safety. So this means that customers all over the world recognize ISO 22000 and the food safety management system approach. It's aimed at domestic and import parity. It's aligned with regulations. ISO 22000, as I mentioned, in some countries is actually the national regulation. And for our part, we've aligned FSSC 22000 with FSMA in the US, and we have information on that on the website. So it does provide that harmonization. It does focus on the supply chain, very much like FSMA does. And it is not a one-size-fits-all program. It's flexible, so it can be used by companies of all sizes. It's risk-based. So that means that you define your system around your particular needs. It's not a one-size-fits-all. It just provides that common framework. And because it's developed around the HLS, which is a high-level structure of ISO 22 of ISO and the ISO management system approach, ISO 22000-2018 now is integratable across the company in line with other management systems that are on the same platform. So the same elements such as ISO 9001, 45001, 14,001 and 27,000. And the risk assessment, the requirement for the risk assessment, the organizational risk management is a company-wide thing. So many of the risk assessments that you have to do for the company, for the other management systems are the same as you would need to do for ISO 22000. So it provides that opportunity to pull resources in from other parts of the country, or the other parts of the company, but it also provides that flexibility to build your management system around your needs. The whole approach improves efficiency, customer satisfaction, compliance, and because of its flexibility, it adds resilience and can grow with the company. So it's not, it's not defined for actions or activities that you have to do. It's totally flexible, and as I said, grows with you. You develop your own risk analysis. You determine the risk and opportunities for your own particular company. And while it does require resources and commitment, it is flexible, and you can start at any size. So this is a good time really to sort of draw your attention to this very recently published practical guide to ISO 22000, which I think is very useful, and it's going to be very useful for small and medium enterprises that want to get on the management system approach, looking at a global market and looking at improving resilience and efficiency based on the ISO approach. And it provides examples of how you can actually use ISO 22000 and really gives inside information on how to conduct that risk analysis. So while it is flexible, as I said, you do have to put a little bit of effort into it. It's not complicated, but you do need to do your own risk analysis. And so that, the extra effort pays off in the flexibility and the resilience. But I do suggest that this guide is very useful to actually elucidate a little bit of the things that are required in ISO 22000. So just coming back to 22 as FSSC is a certification program. As I said, ISO 22000 is inordinately useful. It does provide that common platform across the world, across companies, and is a global standard for food safety. But ISO 22000 on its own has no scheme owner, and it's not GFSI benchmarked. So FSSC provides that. FSSC 22000 is a certification program owner and makes it benchmarkable by the GFSI. And that GFSI recognition provides the business-to-business benefits. So companies of any size benefit from that GFSI certification because it's a common language across businesses. And the certification provides evidence that you put that effort in to developing your food safety management system. And it provides evidence of meeting a global standard to your customers. And it also shows that you're aligned with regulations all over the world. The governance and the integrity program really supports the consistency of the certification so that you can rely, or your suppliers can rely on certification conducted either in California or in Tokyo. That's really what our job is, to make sure that the certification bodies are delivering the same level and same level of quality of auditors and certification audits. And also with our updates, as I said, we've recently updated to 5.1. We have to do it constantly to meet the demands of industry and the GFSI. And the huge benefit for FSSC 22,000 certified companies is that we have a free public registry of certified companies on our website. And this is accessible to the global market. So manufacturers looking for a supplier, outlets looking for a product can go to the FSSC 22,000 website and find you if you're certified to FSSC. So just real quickly, a little bit about the update. So FSSC was updated to 5.1. It was published last year, and as from the end of this month, all audits will be conducted to 5.1. The reasons for it, obviously, as I've mentioned, was the updating of the GFSR benchmark requirements in 2020, the need for continual improvement. We have to continue to improve the same way as industry has to maintain continuing improvement. It also incorporates the updates. So I mentioned our board of stakeholders and our board of stakeholders input and the decision list, which adds new elements, adjusts requirements, and again, is another form of updating. So this last board of stakeholders decision list was part of version 5. So all of those that were part of version 5 have now been incorporated in the standard. So if you're running FSSC version 5, you are probably aware of many of the changes from the board of stakeholders lists. These are now automatically into version 5.1, and we've started a new board of stakeholders decision list that will be incorporated, which is on the website and that needs to be consulted, although right now it's really small because all the key elements have been incorporated into 5.1. And we've also improved our integrity program. We've strengthened it and our process for working with new and existing certification bodies to ensure, as I said, the service and consistency of FSSC certification. So real quick, there are some new additional requirements. Many of them are already part of the board of stakeholders decision list. Some of them have been brought in from GFSI also. So there are some requirements, and we have got these identified on our website. I won't go through them in full detail here, but they are identified in a track document on our website. If you need any more information, please feel free to come back to me to ask questions about any of these updates. But they're very clear. The updates and the revisions are identified in the document in red so that you can see what's going to be different in 5.1 that was different from version 5. There's some additional requirements added in part 1 which are going to directly affect the organizations that are certified. There are some requirements if you have a multi-site certification, either for transport and storage or catering and retail, that you need to take into account for internal audits and maintaining standards amongst your multi-site. There is an adjustment to audit duration if you are an intermediate size company. It's now the minimum audit time is going to be 2 days. So if your audits previously were sort of around about 1.5, 1.75 days, they're now going to be at least 2 days, unless you're a very small company, when your audit duration can be, there is a concession for small organizations with only one HACCP study. You can probably reduce that audit duration, but that may have impact on a number of companies. There's some reporting requirements, some maintenance of the audit competency and the minimum number of certificates for the CBs that we're working with. Again, these are all targeted at maintaining the consistency and ensuring the confidence of your customer that you're FSSC certified. One of the things I'm just going to finish is on the food safety culture. This has become really the buzzword of the moment, and part of GFSI benchmarking requirements 2020 was for a requirement to provide, for the auditor to provide evidence of a management's commitment to establishing food safety culture within a company. They did produce a document in which they defined what food safety culture was and how it could be measured. And the conclusions were it all revolved around communication and training, and that it, in order to maintain a food safety culture, it has to come from the top. It has to be communicated. Employers need to be aware of the needs of what they're doing. They need to be trained. They need to be competent. and they need to know why they're doing what they're doing. And GFSI always also requires a means of performance measurement of these food sort of safety culture related activities. So this is part of the new GFSI benching requirements. But I think, as I mentioned, many of these elements are already part of ISO 22000. So we believe that many of the core elements of the food safety culture requirements are already met if you have established and are maintaining an ISO 22000 based food safety management system. What we have done to support this is we've published a food safety culture guidance document, which is linked to version 5.1. It's on the website. It's freely accessible. You can go and download it. You can read it. And what it does is we've outlined how we believe food safety culture is covered already by ISO 22000. And if you're already running ISO 22000, that you will already be aware of some of the behaviors which drive the culture. And this is all linked to the ISO 22000 requirement for leadership and commitment to food safety, and the behaviors that really promote and define the food safety culture of a company. It also outlines how food safety culture could be audited during an FSSC 22000 audit. So again, it's useful to have a look at the document to see the sort of questions that need to be asked, that get feedback from the employers to find out, whether they are heard, whether they're listened to, whether they feel that they are contributing to the food safety management system. They are part of the plan. It's dependent on them. It doesn't matter what level, what position you play in a food manufacturing company, the food safety is dependent on you. You have a huge impact and you're very important. So refer you back to that. We do have a match as these information on the website. Under scheme at the top here, you'll see, if you click on that, there'll be all information on version 5.1, all the guidance documents, the food safety guidance. There's guidance on food fraud, food defense, more information on our alignment with FSMA, and also, of course, the list of our licensed certification bodies and the list of certified organizations. So we do have information, as I mentioned. We have the scheme documents, the track change document for 5.1 that I mentioned, that you can go and see. There's also a process for upgrading to 5.1. This year, or last year, I should say, thank goodness it was last year, we've had a lot to accommodate with. So we're very sympathetic to the need to accommodate the upgrades, accommodate audits. We have capacity for remote audits now. So we want to hear from you. It's our interest, in all of our interest, to support you. And we also have sort of color brochures on the different sectors that we have prerequisite programs and that we have FSSC certification. So this is all freely available. I would suggest you go visit. And I'm also available either by phone. As Bernadette mentioned, I'm based just outside of Washington, DC. A little bit of a time difference, but at least I'm in the right continent. So thank you very much for your attention, and we look forward to taking some questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacqueline. Let's move on to just a little bit here on how to get started, then we'll go into questions. So if you are interested in getting started on the FSSC 22000 or the development program, start by contacting SCS to receive an application. Once that application is received, we offer you a free quote based on the program chosen. A third step is optional pre-assessment and training. These are recommended, but optional, and we can discuss that more if people have specific questions. The on-site audit is conducted, closure of corrective actions, and issuance, then the certificate decision is made. And regarding SCS, so we strive to make your certification experience as streamlined and pleasant as possible. We advocate advanced planning to ensure that our work meets your schedule and work plan. That's very important to plan in advance, and we can support you that way quite well. We have a dedicated and responsive account management team. We do respond to emails and calls in short order. We have flexible scheduling options, and we are a one-stop service for all your training and certification needs. Competitive pricing and bundle service discounts are available on any of our SCS certification and audit services. So thank you all very much for being here and attending. This was a wealth of information. Thank you, Jacqueline. And let's now go to the questions. Let me get to my screen to see those. Let's see. We are a foreign FSVP importer, do not produce or handle product, and are interested in getting food safety certification. Do you think it's possible just based on documentation? Jacqueline?
So I'm not quite sure I understand. So you are an importer? Can you just repeat the question?
We are a FSVP importer. We do not or handle product, but are interested in getting a food safety certification. Do you think?
So we don't certify brokers or importers at this time. So you might be wanting to seek a certification for a broker. We do have a certification for storage and transport. So if you are importing and storing, we may be able to certify that. But our current scope does not sort of cover brokers. And I think that might be what you will need. You could take ISO 22000 certification, and I'm sure you could talk to SCS about doing ISO 22000, but we don't have an approved PRP at this time for brokers.
Okay, thank you. Can the brochures be ordered?
You just go to the website and download them. So you can download them and print them. They're in full color, so just get them from the website. If you have any problem, then just whip me an email, but they're free of charge.
We are already GSFI certified. What additional benefits do we get from FSSC 22000?
I'll have to rewind the webinar. So the benefits of the benefits of FSSC 22000 is the flexibility of the management system approach. It puts you on the same platform as many of the major manufacturers. It's a global, it's a global standard. It's recognized all over the world. And if you're going to start using sort of data services for documentation, then it's so much more helpful if you're all on the same platform. I think, as I said, it's flexible, it's applicable to all levels of the supply chain. You develop your own risk analysis. So it's a food safety management system. It's a bigger thing. It takes the whole company into account. It manages your risks. And really, I think the biggest advantage is it's flexible, and it's not one size fits all. You put the effort into it and you get a bigger reward out of it. But rewind the website and see what rewind the webinar and think about what you get from FSSC that you might not get from another GFSI program.
Okay, thank you. What training is required or recommended for FSSC 22000 certification?
So I could pass that back to Bernadette, actually, because SCS is a licensed training organization. So that we have a number of training schemes. There's sort of information on FSSC 22000. There's internal auditor training, because ISO 22000 as a management system requires the verification, feedback, and internal audits, constant internal audits to review the effectiveness of the management system. And there's also lead auditor training. So somewhere in between awareness and information on FSSC 22000 and internal auditors would be a good training. But again, I can pass that back to Bernadette if you have anything to say about your own training program. Oh, and implementing FSSC, of course.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass this to Radoik. Are you available to add anything to that, if there's anything?
Yeah, no, I support what Jacqueline said. We do have a range of trainings. At the moment, we're going to be offering FSSC implementation training, which will give you an overall overview of what the requirements are for FSSC 22000, and will give you an idea of what you need to develop, implement, and document for your food safety management system. That training will be actually offered for the first time for SCS on April 12th through the 14th.
Okay, thank you. Is FSSC 22000 SMEs recognized for GSFI?
No, it isn't. So the development program is not, it's a starter program, but it's equivalent to the GFSI Global Markets Program, which is also not benchmarked by the GFSI. You need the extra elements of FSSC 22000 to add that GFSI benchmarking. But it is accepted by many manufacturers, recognizing recognizing the need to expand their supply chain by small and medium organizations, and it gets them on the supply chain. But at this time, no, it's not benchmarked.
Okay, thank you. Does the most updated standard need to be purchased, or is it available for free?
So the requirements of FSSC 22000 version 5.1 are on the website, and they're free of charge. You do have to purchase the ISO standards because they're publicly available standards and they're covered by sort of copyright. So if you're going to undertake FSSC certification, I do recommend you purchasing a copy of ISO 22000 and purchasing a copy of the prerequisite program that's relevant to your sector. I think they run at around sort of $100 each, and that supports, that goes into the ISO.org where you can purchase them. So you would start with purchasing those standards, but beforehand, if you want to review the requirements, they're on the website, they're under the tab of scheme, and then you can review all of them there.
Okay, thank you. What is the difference between FSSC 22000 and SQF?
Well, SQF is a different approach. SQF is a different certification program. They're both GFSI benchmarked, so they both provide you with the essential elements of maintaining food safety. But as I think I mentioned in the first question, FSSC is a food safety management system. It comes from a different approach. It comes from the management down. SQF really starts on the requirements of the manufacturing line and kind of pulls commitment down from on top. SQF is also accredited as a product certification program. FSSC is accredited as a process certification program. So you're certifying the whole of the management system and the processes conducted within a company. So they're coming from slightly different approaches, but ISO 22000 is FSSC 22000 is a management system, and FSSC and SQF is a product certification program.
Okay, thank you. What is the benefit to go from level 1 to level 2?
It's kind of like a pathway. To be honest, you add the requirements of documentation in level 2. And if you go to the website, you can see it's very clear, what you have to add in level 2. It's an intermediate stage. You could go straight from level 1, get your head around risk management and the process, and then expand into FSSC 22000 certification. But if it takes you more than a year to do that, you could go via level 2. It's just it's an expansion of the requirements. So if you like, it's kind of getting you stronger, stretching your legs, taking more on board. Particularly if you're small and you're kind of a lot of things to develop. It's a gradual way of warming you up to the fully fledged certification. But I would, again, go online, see those added requirements. There's a little bit more, mostly, as I said, mostly it's about documentation and the requirement to sort of keep track of everything, which is not all required in the first stage. You need to do it, but it's not specified as, how to document it. So it's good training. it's a path. It's a pathway. It's a stepping stone in that pathway.
Okay, thank you. How does it compare to PCQI certification?
PCQI is not a certification. PCQI is a qualification. So PCQI is defined as a competency level by FSMA. ISO 22000 requires competence. PCQI could qualify, but ISO defines the need for your team members to be competent to do their task. So PCQI is affiliated with FSMA and the preventive controls rules. And again, I would refer you back to the website. We have the alignment of FSSC 22000 against FSMA, so it sort of illustrates where a PCQI might be defined by FSMA and how, you know, the same level of confidence could be defined by ISO 22000. But PCQI is a level of competence. It's not a certification program.
Okay. And I think we probably have time for just one or two more. Does FSC 22000 certification cover sustainability?
No, that's a very interesting question. Not at this time. Sustainability is FSSC just certifies safety. It's a food safety management system. But the management system is set up to encompass the need to assess risks and opportunities, organizational risk management. So there are opportunities within the mapping of the procedure to incorporate requirements or interests, opportunities such as sustainability, such as ethical sourcing, halal certification, non-GMO certification. They would all be incorporated and considered as part of that first initial context of the organization assessment of risk management. So it's a very early started, that very early process when you're developing the context of the organization, and you can bundle that in within that process of certification. So where SCS offers other opportunities to certify for those elements, they can all be grouped in as part of that management system at the beginning. So there are opportunities to certify against sustainability, and you would add that and bundle that in the management system. And I would talk to SCS about doing that. And the FSSC 22000 management system provides a great opportunity for you to bundle those services together.
Yes, thank you. That is an important point. So SCS can bundle those. We offer, you know, bundled service discounts and whatnot, and can be a one-stop shop for all of that. And I'm so sorry I'm getting to this one late. Do I need to write notes, or the presentation will be forwarded later? We will forward the presentation. It's been recorded, so all of you here or that had registered will get a copy of this, and it will be up on our website within a couple days as well. So, all right, well, if there's, I think we need to close up. The hour is over. Again, thank you all for joining us. I trust that you got value out of this. We hope that you did. We strive to do that. And please contact your SCS sales representatives if you need information about moving forward. And you're welcome to reach out to Jacqueline as well with questions. And we have our technical team here as well. So again, thank you all very much, and have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.